Chuck mentioned that I had written a book, and for many years been giving talks and things, and tell people about my life, and people will come up to me and say, have you written a book, have you written a book? And I kept saying, no, not yet, not yet. And about a year and a half ago, I finally completed it. It's called Dreamwalker. And Morley, I'd like to offer that to you, and thank you for the invitation, and thank you for the hospitality that you have shown me and Valerie. All right, so this morning, what I'm going to do is share with you some aspects of that book. So even though I will talk a little bit about the book, it still will be enough information in here, hopefully, when I'm done, that it will inspire you to go out and buy it. And you can find it at Barnes & Nobles and Amazon.com and all that. Is that a commercial? I guess I should stop that. Anyway, it's a pleasure to be here. A lot of people ask me, why did I decide, a physician, decide to become an astronaut? And I have to tell you that it really started from this picture here. And that was in 1969 when Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed on the moon. I was fascinated with what they were doing. For the first time, human beings had left this planet and traveled to another planet, of course, called the moon. A lot of people argue with me about whether it's a planet or not, but if you really follow it, it really is an orbiting body that got stuck in the gravity of the Earth. And so for us, it was a major feat to do that. For me as a young kid, looking at that little black and white television and deciding to follow in the footsteps of these great men, again, was a leap of faith. It was incredible to watch this happen in real time. So that was my inspiration. I was also inspired by something else. Now, I don't know if none of you are old enough to remember the old Star Trek series, but Star Trek was fascinating to me in that it did a lot of things. There were a lot of firsts that it did. It had the first integrated cast. I don't know if you remember that. And in the United States, before this television show, most of the cast were mostly just white. And so now, we actually showed in the future that there was an opportunity for all races of people to come together and explore the galaxy, which is what we're doing now, which I'm really happy about. The other reason for showing this slide is that it shows the first physician that I met, even though virtually, who actually was an astronaut. And his name was Bones, and you see him standing over his patient. And so, if you remember Star Trek, it also introduced a lot of gadgets, like the gadgets that we wear, these devices like this. Remember the comment, "Beam me up, Scotty," from Captain Kirk? Well, that also introduced the PC and introduced iPads that we have right now. So it was just kind of fascinating to watch that as a kid. But this guy inspired me to go into medicine. But the real guy was this guy by the name of Joe Kerwin, who was the first physician, American physician, to travel in space. And as usual in those days, the Russians had beat us. There was a physician, cosmonaut, who actually went into space first. But again, I was paying attention to the U.S. program. And so, you know something different about Joe examining his patient in space? There's no gravity, of course. And if I was here as a physician and I wanted to see a patient, I would say, "Mrs. Johnson, come in and have a seat on the table." But in this case, because we're in a place with no gravity, you just say, "Hey, Joe, float this way," and there's of course, no up or down. But it was fascinating. Again, inspired me to go into space. As you've heard from Shook, I did the whole education thing, went to the Mayo Clinic, and eventually found my way to NASA in 1990. And when you come into NASA, you go through a 2-year training program where you learn how to fly jets in the shuttle. You also have the opportunity to learn how to survive in different environments, in land and water and ocean and anything else that can throw at us. And then finally, you get selected for a crew. And what you see on this slide is a symbol of our mission patch. And every crew has a mission patch. And this particular mission was the first mission to go to the Russian space station called Mir. And you'll see the depiction of the shuttle. You also see the depiction of the Mir station down at the bottom, indicating that this was the first mission to go there. It was a joint American and Russian mission, so you see the flags down at the bottom, Russia and the United States. And every mission has a mission number. So I want you to take a look at this patch and see if you can find the symbol for the mission number, which is STS-63. And STS stands for Space Transportation System. So embodied in here are the numbers 6 and 3. So can anybody holler out when you see it? All right. Any takers? Come on, you guys got to wake up. Any takers? How about I thought I saw some kids in here. How about you guys? What do you think? Oh, now a commentator has to make up for you guys here. So actually it's fairly easy. 6 rays of the sun and 3 stars. But you know, that's all well and good. You know, the most important thing about this patch is that it has my name on it right there on the left side. And that is so I can show all my family and friends that I actually travel in space, because that's really important. So let's go to space. Everybody wants to know what it's like to travel in space. Well, when I was flying, we were flying the shuttle. As you may know now, we have decommissioned the shuttle, but when we were flying it, it was an incredible vehicle. You have probably seen this on television many times before, but you may not know that this vehicle weighs 5 million pounds. In order to get that 5 million pounds in the air, we have to light 5 engines that produce a thrust of 7.5 million pounds. And I have to tell you that when these babies light, you are leaving the planet and nothing's going to hold you to it. It is an incredible ride. As that force hits the ground, we go in the opposite direction in a hurry. So fast that by the time we get to this point, which is right above the launch tower, we're going faster than the speed of sound, 750 miles per hour. And within another minute or so, we have this view. I love this view. This is a view taken from an F-18 at about 40,000 feet, looking at us coming through the cloud bank there. You kind of see it. And we are hauling and going real fast. I won't complete that sentence, but we are hauling and going fast. You get the point. So within 2 minutes, though, we reach an altitude of 100,000 feet above the ground. And that's about 3 times as high as most aircraft fly. And at that point, we drop off the solid rocket motors. You see them coming off here to the right. And then we have the external tank of the shuttle that's going on into orbit. Now we're above most of the atmosphere. And so there's nothing holding us back. And if I could roll down the window of the space shuttle and stick my hand out, I actually wouldn't feel anything. And because of that, no resistance on the vehicle, we begin to speed up. At this point, we're going 2,500 miles an hour, and over the course of the next probably 6.5 minutes, we go from 2,500 miles an hour to 5,000, to 10,000, to 15,000, and eventually to 17,500 miles per hour. At that point, we go from being pushed back in our seat to 3.5 times our weight. I weigh about 210 pounds. You do the math on that. 3 times 210 pounds. And you will get the sensation that we feel on the inside of this vehicle. So we go from that extreme pressure on the body and the extreme noise from the engines to zero gravity just like that. Now I want you to imagine what would happen if we turned off gravity in this room right now. Everything would begin to float, right? The tables would float, the chairs would float. If I wanted to go from that side of the room to that side of the room, I simply press a little finger and just kind of glide right across. Now, I know a number of you out here as a kid was like me, dreamed of flying and having that experience. But I have to tell you, it was nothing like getting out of my seat for the very first time, floating up to the window, putting my hands on the windowsill, and looking down and seeing the Earth. It was beautiful. And I love this slide for a couple reasons. It shows the orientation in which we fly in space, which is upside down to the Earth. And that's because all of our overhead windows are, all of our windows, I should say, are overhead. So the only way that we can actually see the Earth is if we flip the vehicle over, which we do, which you'll see in this case. So we're flying upside down. And then you'll also see the cargo bay, the top of the laboratory, which will be our home for the next couple of weeks. You'll see the tail of the vehicle, and what we call the Holmes pods. That's where the engines are. You see the robotic arm. But the most important thing about this slide is the nice curvature of the Earth for all you Flat Earth Society members who are still here. So let me introduce you to my crew. So this is the crew for that mission. This slide shows you the types of suits in which we use. The suits down below, the orange suits, are our launch and entry suits. Those suits weigh 120 pounds. Those suits are used to go into space and to come from space. And they're an environmental protection suit in case something happens like the Challenger accident, that we're able to land, it has parachutes, land in the water, and be able to survive in the water for up to 12 hours. The suits at the top are our EVA suits, or extra vehicular activity suits. And those suits weigh 350 pounds. Now I know as you're looking at this slide, you're probably looking at me on stage, and you're probably saying to yourself right now, Dr. Harris, you must be really strong. And I would probably say to you, yes, I am. In fact, I'm Superman. So I know you laugh, but let me tell you why I'm Superman, or why all of us are Superman and Superwomen. Well, let's think about that. What does Superman do? He travels faster than a speeding bullet, right? Well, 17,500 miles an hour is a little bit faster than a speeding bullet. I think it's around 3,000 miles. Superman is able to fly. Well, we talked about gravity, and when I was in space, I floated from one place to the other, even floated outside of the vehicle, flying like Superman. And on this mission, I'll show you later, I actually lifted a 3,000-pound satellite with these two hands, just like Superman would toss cars. Now, is that Superman or what? All right, did I prove it to you? Okay. Now, I want you to stare at this slide, and I want you to pay particular attention to the young lady that's right below me. Her name is Eileen Collins, and she is the first female pilot and commander of the Space Shuttle mission. And one of my favorite people, because she and I are classmates, astronaut classmates. And as you look at her, I want you to look at her hair, I want you to look at the rest of our faces there, as we reproduce this picture on Earth. You'll notice that we all get puffy faces, our eyes kind of scrunched down, and she gets an instant afro. Now, how many of you guys have seen Gravity? Let me see by show of hands. The new movie Gravity. All right. So everybody's been asking me, what do I think of that movie? And I have to tell you, I have fun with movies like that. I don't expect to go there and learn anything really scientific. It was beautiful. But one thing bothered me the entire time of the movie. Remember Sandra Bullock was the star of the movie. And every scene, when she was in the spacesuit, especially when she came into the space station, those who haven't seen the movie, it's about two astronauts getting trapped outside and being hit by meteors, and they're trying to save their life. They're going through all these life-altering things, and she ends up going into the space station just in time before getting hit with meteors. She comes out of her suit, and two things bothered me. One is that she came out of her suit and her helmet, her hair was flat, completely, down nice and neat on her head, and that wouldn't happen. In reality, she would have an afro. So as soon as that helmet came off, her hair would just puff up like an afro. And secondly, those of you who saw the movie, did you see how easy she got out of her suit? And then she struck that pose looking so beautiful. That would never happen. Because if you just went through a life-altering situation and you just got into the vehicle and you get out of your suit, you're going to be sweaty, you're not going to look as beautiful as she did. I wish all the astronauts looked beautiful like that. But, never mind. When you get a chance, go and see the movie, because from the pictures that they show, a lot of those came from NASA photos. It's just beautiful. And it'll give you just a feel for what we have to deal with when we're doing spacewalks. Now, the puffiness around the eyes is something we call space adaptation syndrome. And that is, we all grow up in a one-gravity environment. And in this environment, the bone size and density, or the size of our muscles, the size of our heart, are based on being in this gravitational field. When we go into space, what happens is that our body tries to adapt to this new environment, just as it's adapted here on Earth. And as a consequence, we begin to lose bone, about 1% per month. We begin to lose muscle mass, and on a mission as little as 2 weeks, we can lose up to 20% of our muscle mass. And our heart gets smaller. We're not able to fight off illnesses like we are here on Earth. And you know what I call all of that? As a physician in charge of taking care of folks in space, I call that job security. Because they need me in order to be taken care of. Now, I want to see if I can, let's see, yeah, let me talk about this slide if I can. So, I was pausing because I was trying to debate whether to tell this story now.